Welcome to YouTooSpain, almost live. This week, Chris and I will be talking about a very recent royal decree in Spain that's a game changer for those of you who found it difficult to get healthcare insurance because of a pre-existing cancer diagnosis. We also have the answers to some frequently asked questions about moving to Spain. And finally, we'll be arguing with each other about whether it's better to live near a village or a city and which month and season are the best for living in Spain. What do you think? Tell us in the live chat or in the comments below, because you are a part of this too. That's what this channel is all about. And you're welcome to YouTooSpain. Run the theme music. Let's dance. Ooh, that's groovy. And speaking of groovy, let's meet my regular fortnightly expert guest. He's my best mate and yours. It is Chris from Upsticks. Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Not bad, actually. It feels a bit weird, doesn't it? We're doing this in the evening instead of the morning, and it's not Saturday, and we've all been working really hard all day. So
yeah, it's been a hectic one today, actually. But anyway, we couldn't complain. It'd be worse if it wasn't, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, it's great to see you as always, and we're not completely live this week, as I've just said, because I'm hopefully recovering right at this moment when the broadcast goes out from my final chemo treatment. Hopefully, I mean, I don't know yet because we're recording this before the blood tests, when they might say no. But anyway, that doesn't stop you guests out there being fully engaged on the live chat or on the comments below. Even if you're watching the video back afterwards, have a good chat with each other. It's a win-win-win with a cherry on top. Let's have that on the screen. I've not done that for a little time. So there it is. Right then, let's get straight into it. It's time for the main feature, which goes like this. It's the main feature of the show. The topic's in the title. Woo! So it's a fairly short topic this week. In fact, it's more of an announcement, really. It follows on nicely from last week's live show, which was with Ciaran, our recommended healthcare insurance dude, when we had one of our regular watchers on the show point out a new law in Spain about pre-existing conditions that none of us had heard about. So, remind us all, Chris, to begin with, what's all the fuss about pre-existing conditions? Why are they a problem?
Yeah, so pre-existing conditions are a problem when it comes to getting a visa, because when you get a policy to get your visa, basically the policy has to be complete with no exclusions. So you can't have anything excluded from that policy. So the policy that you get must be conducive to the social security care that you would get here, or you would get under the S1, which is basically the public healthcare system. So that is what the big hoo-ha is about about pre-existing conditions. Now, what we do know is, evidently, since Brexit and since the non-lucrative visa has been so popular, there's been a lot of companies which have products which are flexible but still viable for the visa. Mm-hmm. Being careful with my words.
Yes. They try and find a way around it.
Basically, yeah. There's a lot. Now, no one would probably get a visa if there wasn't some exclusions, but the paperwork wasn't correct for the consulate. So the only thing is, obviously, if you do have an exclusion on a policy but have managed to get the correct paperwork for the consulate, you have to be aware that that really is an exclusion. So you wouldn't be treated for that if you got ill in Spain because of the thing that's excluded.
So that would work out extremely expensive, because you'd just have to pay, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us about royal decrees. Is that the same as a law, or does it need further legislation before it becomes law?
A royal decree, basically, it establishes a right. So it does go through Parliament, as always, and it establishes a right. And a lot of the time, you'll find that they're related to EU ruling. That's what we're going to talk about today, rather than internal law. But yeah, it is essentially a royal decree. It's essentially a law, and the government and anybody that it applies to has to abide by it.
Brilliant. So I'm reading here that this new decree is a whole package of various anti-crisis measures on what it calls support for the impact of war and other situations of vulnerability. And they've brought it into comply, as you said, with a series of European law initiatives. And it includes the right to be forgotten in relation to cancer. So tell us what it is.
Yeah, so basically what they've brought in is, and I mean, this is very interesting because it's Spain falling in line with EU law. And basically what they've brought in is a decree which, if you have had cancer in the past, but you've been clear for 5 years, that cannot be taken into account for insurance purposes. Now, in this decree, they mention life insurance, don't they? They don't actually specifically mention health insurance, but they also say that this is a direct translation, so this can't be taken. And don't forget that a lot of decrees are open to interpretation, very much like immigration. What you'll find is that initially, when a law is passed, then the people who that law applies to will have an official body, like a college. So like a gestor has colegio de gestores. Anybody who abides by health insurance, they'll have their own college. Professionals will have their own college. And you'll find that the people, those colleges would be the people who may advise the professionals who are either selling that service, how they need to apply it to their products or service that they're providing. So interpretation is quite open in a lot of the laws. But certainly here, they're saying that as per EU law, if you've had cancer and over 5 years ago and you've been clear for 5 years, then certainly initially for life insurance, they can't take it into account. And let's see if that could apply to health insurance further down the line.
Yeah, it does. The wording on this, although, as you say, it's a translation into English, so you can't take it as whether it's exact on it. Says such as when taking out life insurance or applying for a loan as well. So it applies to the banks.
Yeah, so also you have to say, well, when you get a mortgage or you get a loan, most of the time they force you to take out an insurance package at the same time, which could be affected if you have had a previous illness like cancer.
Yes, so they all tie in together. So, okay then, so how does the right to be forgotten regarding cancer work?
Well, it will be the right to be forgotten in terms of, hopefully, if they apply this correctly, that you will be forgotten in terms of that they forgot you had cancer, and they cannot, after the 5 years, they cannot apply the fact that you had cancer to the policy. I don't think that's a very good translation, the right to be forgotten. If you translate that into Spanish, it would sound better. So it's not the right to be forgotten. It would translate, I think, in Spanish. I haven't read the Spanish decree yet, to be honest with you. I've just read this one. But it'd be the right for it to be forgotten, if that makes sense. If that would make more sense. Is it the right for the circumstance to be forgotten? I think that's where the translation there isn't too good.
Yes. Shall I quote actually from well, this is the translated version of it. It says the Royal Decree law approved establishes the right to be forgotten when contracting insurance and banking products. So that does say and banking products for patients who have had cancer once 5 years have passed since the end of treatment without relapse. And the text states the nullity of clauses, stipulations, conditions or covenants that exclude one of the parties on the grounds that they have had cancer, and the prohibition of differentiation when contracting an insurance policy for a person who suffered from cancer, and the elimination of the obligation to declare whether one has suffered from cancer in order to take out life insurance. It says life insurance there, and the prohibition of a background of cancer being considered in this procedure. Yes, it'll be interesting to see what they say about health insurance. Yeah,
it will be interesting. It'll be interesting initially to find out how they apply, if they do apply this to health insurance, which evidently they should. Now, there are already companies I know that ask if it's been clear for the last 5 years, which actually will give people insurance. So it's not like they're saying no across the board anyway. So, and most health policies are looked on a case-by-case basis. So I do know there are already companies that before this were still giving out policies, maybe with exclusions, not for the cancer, for other things, but there are people who have had it covered who have been clear for 5 years. But hopefully this means across the board that they'll be taken on board. And I mean, it's great really for people. I mean, the only people, obviously people who are managing cancer, living with cancer, they won't be able to apply that. A lot of people, for example, with prostate cancer, manage it from their lifetime, don't they? They never, only for experience with clients and people I've known, they have cancers which are never gone away but just managed and still living up to their 80s and 90s, happily. So obviously people like that wouldn't be able to get life insurance, but people like in your situation where once the operation's done, it's gone, clear, see you later, as long as there's no repetition for 5 years, it's presumably you still have to get life insurance in 5 years' time.
Brilliant. That could benefit quite a lot of people who are moving to Spain then, couldn't it?
Absolutely. And it also benefits people who, because we always think about maybe the larger cancer. This sounds a bit crazy, but some people who are young maybe have smaller cancer. You've got skin cancer, there's testicular cancer, there's cancers where younger people might be affected. And when I say smaller cancers, obviously there's cancer is a cancer, but it's still considered a cancer, I think, for health insurance purposes, and that younger people may get, and then 15 years down the line they've been clear, go to get health insurance, and then no longer can that be hopefully that won't be a problem.
Absolutely, yes.
The elimination of the obligation to declare, so they won't actually even won't need to declare that. I mean, we're talking about life insurance here because we don't know how it's going to be applied for, but I can't see how they're going to apply for one and not the other.
Exactly. So that's all we've got to say about that, and that's the end of our feature for this week. Smash that like button into smithereens, my smashing friends, especially if you've got some information that you need from today's topic. I think it's helpful to everyone, this one. And while you're here, make a note of Chris's website, upsticks.es, where you can find articles about everything to do with visas and residency, and also moving your car to Spain and other things. And we are going to have a show for that, about that very soon. Okay. So moving on, normally we have, when we're live, the Ask Us Anything feature now, which would go like this. Ask us anything you like, as long as it's to do with moving to Spain or living here, thank you. However, because we're not here live, we can't do that in the normal way, so put any questions you have in the comments on YouTube, remember, not on Facebook, and we'll get the answers to you as soon as we can. Yes, do them underneath this video. Here we go. So we'll move on to the next feature. It's time for FAQs, and it goes like this. FAQs just for you, but some of them might not be so frequent. Yes, we have the answers to 3 frequently asked questions. Some of them aren't even frequently asked. They might be rarely asked questions, but we have the answers to them, whatever they are. And these are about moving to Spain or living here in general. So, Chris, we have 3 FAQs. The first one was from Jean, and it was about the S1 and about giving them a date before you go to the consulate. Yeah,
actually, I've got all of these from Jean's questions. Sorry, that was our escape. That's from a call that we had today, so I'll write them all down.
Excellent. So, yeah, what's the date? What date do you have to give them?
So the biggest question, one of the questions we get asked regarding the S1 is the confusion regarding what date or what entry date do I give the pensions authorities when I order my S1, but I need it before I go to the consulate, and I don't know when I'm going to get my visa. Yeah, so there isn't an exact answer because it's impossible, because you don't know, first of all, when you're going to get your visa. As you've seen, I've been putting on my weekly updates, actually doing calculations of the visa times, and we've seen everything from 81 days to 14 in the last month or so, though they have sort of steadied a little bit. So how on earth can you tell then the pensions authorities what day you're going to be entering Spain to start the S1? Well, what you need to do, and what we do, is we give them the estimated consulate date, because basically the estimated BLS date, as it is now, depending on where you're applying from. The reason we do that is because they're going to ask you your move date. It has to be within 90 days, and in theory, you could have your appointment and get the visa the next day. You're not going to, but you have to put a pin in the calendar. So when you are ordering your S1, when you are structuring your NLB as a whole, you need to have your target dates, albeit flexible. So your target consulate date is what I would use to the start date for your S1, and then you won't have a problem with registering it in Spain, which you've got your visa when you come in.
Brilliant. Second question then, do I need a Spanish bank account? Now, she was asking for something specific that she might need it for, but you could answer generally if you want.
Yeah, so it's for the initial visa application, and the answer is no, you don't for the initial application. Don't forget, when you're applying in the UK or in your country of origin, the consulates are generally forgiving to the fact that you haven't actually moved to Spain yet and have absolutely no assets in Spain. So you're proving that you've got assets to move to Spain, so they can be from the country of origin. When you come to Spain, it's still a good idea to have I believe, to have a high street account, albeit when you're talking about these visa renewals, albeit that we have seen over the last 18 months, especially in the more popular areas like Malaga, Alicante and Murcia, they've been a lot more forgiving on foreign bank account and where cash assets are held. They're always better to have Spanish documentation that doesn't require translation to present to them. In fact, we had today a requirement letter for one in Alicante, and we've had probably about 10 cases which have been carbon copies of this one we've presented with assets in the UK and passive income coming into Spain, and suddenly now they said, oh no, the savings in the UK we're going to discount, so they've got to come to Spain. So having one for the renewal I think is a good idea. Having one for the initial application, you don't need to have one. The biggest problem came from that you can't have bank statements apostilled because they don't have a signature. So how do you have them verified? Well, in Spain, we have bank accounts verified with CSV codes, with stamps. Even now in Spain, and this is very interesting, for the renewals, they're actually asking for the downloaded versions from people's apps of the statements rather than the stamped ones. And the reason is because they come with a digital signature. So we even 2 years ago, they were different and the downloaded ones didn't look very good, and now they're getting better. So what we've seen in Malaga, I'll give you one example, like things like typical statements like, shall we say, so things like NatWest, Barclays, savings accounts. We find that translations of those accounts don't seem to come up against much resistance here in Malaga. You'll get the odd one, maybe 10%, where they'll turn and go, no, we want to see the assets in Spain. In other areas like Almeria, then they really give you a bit of earache about the foreign assets, and they don't actually tell you what they haven't accepted. They just, you put the application in for a renewal, they come back and go, prove you've got enough money. So we have to assume at that point they've disregarded the documents that you've submitted, and we have to move the money to Spain to get valid documents. So it depends. We did an EU residency not only 3 weeks ago in Almeria with 3 months worth of translated documents from the UK in sterling, and they accepted it.
It depends, as usual. So the final FAQ is very similar. Do I need a Spanish phone number?
Yeah, well, just going back to the bank one, just something I meant to finish up on there is you can try it with foreign assets as long as you've got that backup. Hence why it's a good idea to have an account.
Great.
So anyway, Spanish phone number. For the initial application, no. Same answer as before. For the renewal, no. If you don't have to have one to get it accepted, but you're going to get earache across the board, not only on the initial application, but then when you go to the foreigner's office, you cannot use a UK number, so they're going to ask you to put a Spanish number down. Is that going to completely stop your application if you haven't? No. Is it a good idea to have one once you live in Spain? Absolutely.
Although I know a few people here in Computer who are still using their English phone numbers because they've got a really good deal on it. Maybe they've got a Spanish one as well, I don't know, which they use for official things, but they give out their English numbers. So it's interesting. I think some people just prefer it because they've got all of their friends back in the UK have got it, and they just want to keep that open. Although you can get phones where you've got 2 phone numbers on it and it's got a different ringtone that comes through.
I've got a dual SIM, one for personal and one for work, and I can turn off the work SIM when I leave the office and just leave my personal one on, so that's fine. But I've got family and friends. I disagree. This should have been in our argument section. This
should have been, yeah. Oh, we can argue about anything we want.
Sack off your UK number. No, if you've used it forever and ever, evidently, you've had it for 40 years, then you don't want people to lose that number. Then it'd be worth keeping it alive. But certainly, do you need a UK number? No. I've happily lived and contacted with people on a regular basis with a Spanish one.
When I'd moved here and I swapped to the English one, I still had my SIM card for the English one. I hadn't turned it off, and I was really glad I wasn't, because some of my programs, when they come up with a 2-tier authentication thing, and it still had my English phone number on lots and lots of different ones, so I kept it for a bit on my old phone, just in case, until I find out, until I've gone through several months of them going, right, we need your English phone number. And then eventually it didn't happen again, so I got rid of it. Excellent. That's the end of the FAQs. Wasn't that fun? Now, before we start the extremely popular argument section of the show, it's time for your half-time reminder of all the services available to you as a YouTooSpain follower. And while you're watching that, take a moment to subscribe and click on the bell. It's very quick and costs you nothing. It's a win-win-win with a cherry on top. Take it away, lads. Are you getting the most out of YouTooSpain? Yes, no, I don't know. Did you know that apart from these Saturday morning live shows with expert guests, or expats with really exciting stories to tell, it's not the bloody Graham Norton show, there are videos every Wednesday evening, packed with all the information you need, so we can move to Spain and enjoy living here. Without paying tax? No, Colonel, that's illegal. Naughty boy. Bah! You can find out how to navigate the bureaucracy successfully. How do I find the videos, darling? Just subscribe to the YouTube channel. And click on the bell, you useless cunt. Colonel, there's also a gorgeous YouTooSpain website full of articles, links and everything you need. YouTooSpain.com. And if you want to say thank you to YouTooSpain for all of the valuable information, or if you've been entertained, you can support Skatz with a donation. He looks like he needs a support. The poor bugger can't even stand up. If he was a horse, I'd shoot him. Colonel! The Colonel's not a very nice man. It's all right. He's just a two-dimensional stereotype. Aren't we all, sweetie? I'm not. Brexit! And how do I support YouTooSpain? Use the QR code in the corner! Or you can find it in the SuperLink in the video description below. Where? In the video description, you bloody idiot. I've warned you, Colonel. I'll send you back to the nunnery. There! It's below the video title. Down there. It says, read more. That's right. Just click or tap on that and lots more text appears. There's so much more down below. And don't forget the Facebook page and the YouTooSpain community group, darling, where you can talk to other people just like you. Oh, there's no one like me, sweetie. Thank goodness. Is that everything? There's a guest waiting to tell me things. Oh, I do like things. Where's Doogie Dog? I'm stuck behind a wall. Oh, sorry, Doogie. Follow my voice. Thank you, Master. Get back to the show. I need to go and punch some servants. Oh, Colonel. Back to Skatz in the studio. Thanks, lads. That was very informative. And so we move on very quickly to the part of the show you've all been waiting for. It's the big debate. Normally, Chris and I agree on absolutely everything on this show, but you can't agree about everything all the time. So we're going to have an argument about the most important things in life, which today are as follows. Number one, is it better to live near a village or a city? And number two, what's the best month and season to be here living in Spain? There could be a scrap. Buckle up, it's time for... Chris says, Skatz says, Chris says, Skatz says, it's the big argument. So, Chris, let's dive straight into the dark, turgid waters of disagreement and see what you think about our first quandary. Village or city? Now, you told me that you really want to live away from the city a few times, but you've chosen to defend living near the city. So, have you already dug yourself a deep hole there to get out of? Tell us why the city is best.
I have, because I've lived in both. So I've lived in a tourist city. I've lived out in a small city in Granada, and I live in a relatively big town now, 50,000 plus, and a little bit out in the country. And I'm going to defend cities because I'm not saying you have to live right in the middle of a city, but certainly being very close to one has some absolutely amazing benefits, I have to say.
Like what?
So I say I say everything. First of all, the infrastructure. So getting anywhere is amazing. So like for us, we live very, very close to Malaga, and we can literally just hop on a bus and get to the airport, and we're there. So that whole commute is just doesn't exist. Getting to the centre of Malaga, well, foodie. Now I am on a diet now, unfortunately. Well, never mind.
It happens to us all.
Yeah, it comes to us all, doesn't it? In the end, yeah. That's why I'm sat so far away from the table, because of my belly. So I'm gonna go on a diet now. I'm on a diet now, which is I'm huffing about, but never mind. But even if you are on a diet and you're a foodie, it's great, because when you go to places like Malaga, you've got just a variety of things. And even here in Alarin de la Torre, where I am, which is quite big, you never want for anything because you've got it all on your doorstep. Also, for my demographic, I've got kids. So we have everything from Jumpy Joe's, I think it's called, which is a trampoline place which does whatever we need for kids, down to the place that sells my chicken feed, my chickens. So we never want for anything, and you can always escape into the mountains if you feel like it.
Great. Is that all you've got to say? Just chicken feed and
chicken feed. Yeah, I think what else we've got to defend. What else we've got to defend about the city? I mean, obviously the diversity living in the city, which is great, because you do get to meet an awful lot of interesting people, which is even good here in Alarin de la Torre, I have to say. Definitely people I wouldn't meet up in the mountains, lost, miles away, which is true. Yeah, I'll let you have a go now. Go on.
Right then. No, I mean, of course, there's lots of things going on in the cities, and you can get just about anything you need in the shops, but quality of life, this is what I'm going to argue. Who wants to spend their life in a state of tension and stress? I've seen you driving in through the traffic in the morning with all that, the traffic and the noise and the smells and the bloody tourists, when you can have a much more peaceful existence, and you're still within, I mean, where it's still within reach of, I mean, it's an hour away from here, but you can live in or near a very pretty village with a lovely community, and it is a kind of multinational community we have here. And you can relax, and you can feel all of your stress disappear. Just imagine yourself in a beautiful villa with your own pool in a quiet, secluded valley, within easy reach of all the facilities you need in the nearby village. Let's call it comforter, shall we? With only the sounds of nature as your daily companions there. And just ask yourself what's best for your health. And also ask yourself, isn't this what most of you have been dreaming of? Of course it is. You've been watching A Place in the Sun, and that's what they all say. You want to be out in the country, just within reach, within hopefully walking distance of a village, but even a short car drive. And if you find the right village, you're only a skip and a jump from several towns with more shops. I mean, we've got 3 decent sized supermarkets and lots of small ones, so you can get just about anything. There's a chicken feed shop and dog food. They do lots and lots of things there, and they've got, and that's quite cheap, that one. And so it doesn't take long to get down to the beach, where there's a huge long beach absolutely full of chiringuitos that aren't as packed as the ones in the cities. It's a lot less stress, and it's cheaper out here in the villages compared to the prices in Malaga, and the money that you save from living out. You could get a taxi in and book a hotel for a couple of nights and go wild, knowing that you can get back home to your villa whenever you want and get away from the madness. I rest my case, Your Honour.
Well, I mean, and now you're bringing up health. We have to say that the 2 people in my car when they were driving up to Compton threw up. So it can't be that healthy, can it? But,
that's just gosh, you're a bunch of wusses. There's nothing to it.
How could that be healthy if they're throwing up on the way to the village? That can't be right.
You just get used to it. Actually, I mean, when we were on holiday here, it was in Granada province, actually near Orcheva. There were those 3 villages, and also Treveles, which is, I think, the highest up village up in the mountains. It's famous for that. And Liz and Oscar were feeling distinctly ill as I was whizzing round all of the roads going up there. So, but not anymore. We don't. Liz drives faster than me now, so we don't feel ill at all. You do get used to that within a couple of weeks of living here. So anyway, it keeps your esophagus in trim. Gives you you throw up a few times, and it's good for you. Cleans out your insides. You just carry a toothbrush with you. It's fine for the first 2 weeks. Also, actually, another one, you're above the humidity line if you get a certain distance above the mountains. We went down to our friend's house, which is about halfway down the hill, and they're just at the start of the humidity line, and so it gets a bit hotter down there. But where up where you get the breezes and it tames the heat in the summer, and you get a bit more of the seasons too.
People are coming away to get away from the seasons. They just want a nice, steady, warm bit of sweat. Doesn't matter, does it?
But it only gets down to about 8 degrees here, so it very rarely gets lower than that, I think. I mean, there have been snowy times, and you do sometimes see the frosty tops of the mountains, but that's a mountain that's another 1,000 meters further up in the air, so you just don't go up that high, you know. Anyway,
the conclusion is that villages are nice to visit. Villages are nice to visit, but I won't want to live in one. And you think that cities are nice to visit, but you won't want to live in one.
There you go. Yeah, no, I don't think I would. I mean, I lived on the outskirts of a city, that was Leicester, so I lived very close to the middle, and it was handy to be near lots and lots of things. I mean, you could literally walk 10-20 meters down the road and there'd be a pizza place and a Blockbuster Video, if you can remember them, and you know, fresh fruit and veg in a butcher's and all kinds of things, and that was good. But you can kind of do that here. I could just walk down the hill. It's 10 minutes to the supermarket, and you can get what you want, and you can still get deliveries of food as well, or you can just go and collect it. It's a 5-minute drive, and we've got just about everything here you need, really. I mean, it's quite a big village. I'd say it's like 3,000 people altogether if you count the camper. So you've got a really good selection of people, and it's a lot of mainly sort of older, 45 and upwards, I think. Certainly more over 55 than there are below. And of course you have half of the population is Spanish, so you get to meet the locals as well.
Yes, yeah, that is true. That is true. You do, but you do in other cities as well. You get to meet the locals, unless you look like me, because then everybody just talks to you in English anyway. Yeah,
pale skin and the slightly red hair.
Yeah,
that's why I got rid of the hair, so they can't tell anyway.
Yeah.
So, what do the viewers think anyway? Put your comments below the video. Express your opinion. So let's get on to the final contentious subject. Which season and month are better for living in Spain? So what's your favourite time of the year, Chris, and why?
See, for me, it's a demographic thing. You know, the 24th of June onwards, when the kids finish school, and you forget that routine of having to get up in the morning, taking them all, so you can work a lot more relaxedly. You can work from home if you want on some days. You know, you can just feel the pressure release, you know, from that time of year. So June for me onwards, where we could arrange lots of fun stuff, but still not have that pressure of having taken the kids to school. We've got summer camps, which are very relaxed, and you know, the world comes to life, doesn't it? Then I think that's amazing.
Yes, lots of life around where you are. It's absolutely packed, and of course you're all dripping with sweat because it's humid and baking hot.
Yeah, just the kilos dropping off. Yeah.
Well, that didn't happen to you. Not yet, anyway.
Put them back on, don't we? That's the problem.
Yeah. That is it, because you just feel like a beer, don't you, at that point?
Yeah, and food, and you generally eat late, you know. So it's eating late's nice, and you know, you do get into a lot of. So here, obviously, if you make Spanish friends and stuff, obviously when you're moving over, and because we live in quite a Spanish community, you'll find that it's quite normal to be sat up till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning just talking, because it's the cool period. So you've got to remember to get into your siesta period as well, you know, because if not, getting up at 8 o'clock in the morning is really hard.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Got to get up at 6 instead. Some of the lads, the landlord's workers, they were out strimming in the garden at 7 o'clock in the morning, just down the hill on his bit of land. So that's the best time to do that. You don't want to keep on going beyond, 10 o'clock in the morning. It's just way too hot by then because the sun's come over the mountains. Yeah.
Well, they pick the lemons. They pick the lemons near us. They'll pick them, and they start at around 5:30 before the sun even comes up. So the tractor's got the lights on, and they're going up, and then you see them, and you can hear them, and they'll work, and they'll work through the night when it's the fumigating time. That starts, we see them driving up at 11 o'clock, and then they'll work through the night. Keep it cool.
Lovely. So I should be disagreeing with you, but there's a lot of good in those months. Let's see.
I think tourism, the GDP. What is it? Spain's. How much percentage was it that they were saying, the people who were moaning about tourism? But it turns out that our GDP is 12% of it comes from tourism or something like that, and a lot of that's got to come in the summer months, isn't it?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, and it's a bigger percentage in Andalusia, I'm sure, because we've got the whole of the Costa del Sol and right the way around to the other costas. How far does it go? Up to Murcia, just below Murcia.
Yeah. No,
there's a lot of population there.
Yeah, it's a good time. It's a good time this summer.
Yeah, personally, I think the best time in Spain is now. It's September. It's the beginning of the autumn, and you get the stifling heat has gone down enough. The humidity has eased off just enough, but you've still got the glorious weather. And if it's not cloudless all the time and there's occasional shower, then that's just what the earth needs to bring back the greenery. And then you've got the autumn colours start appearing, which is lovely. And you get some of my favourite colour flowers coming around now. I think all the purples and oranges and things like that, which are two of my favourite colours. And of course, not having kids anymore, this is the time when all the kids bugger off back to school, and then the tourists with all their young families go home, and everything quietens down, and even the Spanish tourists go back to work. And I find it so much easier to get a table in the restaurants when you're there, so you've got more choice. And of course, there's something that's important to you: the bureaucracy. You've got to get out of August, and then everything opens up, because it's impossible for you to do anything at the end of the summer. But as soon as September comes around, you get things done again, don't you? And that eases off the pressure for everyone. And I think the temperature in your head goes down at that point as well. When I know it feels better. It certainly does for me, but I mean, I'm affected by the heat more this year than I was before, and I used to love it. And what else? There's also, you can start walking again up in the mountains. It's cool enough to get out there, whereas it would kill you in August. And you can start to walk your dogs again during the day instead of having to get up with the tractors picking the lemons, which also means you can get a bit more fit again and lose a bit of weight that you put on in that awful hot summer.
Yeah.
And I imagine for working people, I am a working person, but it's a lot easier to do your job in the autumn than it is in the summer. I know my landlord's been wandering around with his got a hat on, and he's just can't wait for this bit to be over. I also know that the viewers that we get for all of our videos, it drops off in the summer, and then as soon as September arrives, you get a sudden influx. And I think it's for the same reason as you can't get anything done in August. I think they all start listening and engaging again, and so it's a really good time to move here. There are more rental properties on the market, and it's the second half of the year, so capital gains tax can be avoided. So that's the business stuff, I think, where it's a good time to live here and a good time to move here. I think we moved in October and moved into Competa in November, so it was even cooler then. But we were preparing and everything in September. What else is there? This one you won't like. I'm going to dare say it though. Strictly Come Dancing starts on BBC again in September. But most of all, you might like this one though. It's always there seems to be David Attenborough starting one of his new nature programs, and that's fantastic. Best camera work in the world. So I'll get away with that. I know I don't watch television all the time, but those are two of the things that we're hooked on, I think. And it's always September, it's always the autumn season. I just find autumn a bit more refreshing. And even when I lived up in the northeast of England, when it got really cold and frosty, it was that crispness when you walk out in the morning and you can open up your lungs, and there's just like electricity in the air. But here in Spain, it kind of still feels a bit like that to me, but you can walk around in t-shirt and shorts. So what more can you ask for? That's the end of my argument there.
Okay, I will accept your argument, because mine was based on a lot of personal reasons, and I also accept that going into autumn, because we do say that, you know, summer's great, it's nice just to be able to leave the kids sleeping instead of having to drag them out of bed and organise that kind of thing. But by this time of year, we are desperate for them to go back and have a routine. So, but it is a long summer, June till September. June the 22nd, I think they finished, and they go back to school next Tuesday. That is a long summer. So there is that as well.
So yeah, it is a long season, isn't it?
It is. And then the other reason why this time of year is a bit of a nightmare for us is because now it's non-stop till Christmas. There's no half terms. So we've got now, they go back on the 10th September. We have obviously the 1st of November, that's a bank holiday, and depending on how that falls, you might get a long weekend or not. This year we get a long weekend. Then you get the 6th and the 8th of December, which is the that's the Constitution Day, isn't it? Spanish Constitution Day. And then
Constitution or Labour Day? Oh no, we've had Labour Day. Constitution, yeah. I
should know this. We write an article every year. I should know this. Anyway, so we've got the 6th and the 8th, which, if that doesn't fall very well, it's a nightmare. We had it 2 years ago. Do you remember we had it on a Tuesday and a Thursday? So it was Sunday, go back to work, Tuesday off, go back to work and school, right? Thursday off, and then Friday go back to school, and it was just horrible. And then obviously then we get the long stint at Christmas where they're now off. So they have the kids have a long stint, and we don't get any sort of half terms or breaks in between now and apart from 3 bank holidays until the 24th. And here, don't forget, if the 24th falls on a weekday, then that's just a normal day. So everybody, what they do is scramble around to finish work about 2 o'clock, and then they go and have not winner and have Christmas dinner in the evening, obviously here instead of 25th like we do.
Great. And that's a whole other season. And of course you can watch the final of Strictly Come Dancing on the weekend before Christmas. So it's perfect.
Well, that's, again, one of the good things about the end of August and going into winter is it's the second half of the Formula One season, isn't it? So.
There's always something good. There you go. So, well, that was very enjoyable. So we're back to being friends again now. But unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this week. If you like the new style show, click on the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. And join us every 2 weeks for this show. And don't miss the shows in between either. I'll tell you in a moment who your special guest will be next week. But for now, let's give Chris a big virtual hug and a kiss and say bye-bye for now. Have a good holiday and see you in 2 weeks.
See you later.
Bye-bye. So, who do I have on the show next week? Well, I'm very happy to say I have one of YouTooSpain's most ardent fans and most frequent commentator on our Facebook page and group. Not only that, but he's got an amazing past and he's a thoroughly nice bloke. It's your friend and mine, Yogi. You can ask him questions in advance on Facebook if you want, or just wait and ask him live on the chat. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us, leaving comments, hitting the like button and supporting us with donations and memberships. It is very much appreciated. I'll see you either on the midweek video or live on Saturday mornings at our regular time of 9 o'clock in the morning if you're in the UK or Ireland or Portugal, or 10 o'clock if you're in Spain or Central Europe. That's all for this week. Someone pass around the royal decree cookies. Peace and love, peas and fluff. And here's one final message from all of the voices in my head at YouTooSpain. See you soon. Wave goodbye, lads. Bye. Goodbye. Toodaloo. Peace and love, peas and fluff. Oi, oi. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. One more cosmic dance? All right then. Look, Mum, I'm dancing. Oh, I'm all a quiver. Let's dance.